Then we'll move to the second topic, which is design your intervention logic. So designing your project, the first thing to keep in mind is that you're supposed to build your intervention logic. And this all comes from what we call the theory of change, which is basically taking stock of an actual situation, trying to improve it, and to achieve change in the end. So when you will be designing your project, So this is a project intervention logic that we use at EUI. So you can see that we take stock of the initial situation, and you are supposed to describe in your application form what are the challenges that this situation has, your urban area, to then achieve at the end results and accomplish change. This will be the expected result that you want to target. And all the things that are in between is supposed to be your project, with, on one hand, the desired change, so what is it that you want to change, and your work plan, how you want to do it. So when you will be thinking about what it is that you want to change, this is basically describing your overall objective and your specific objective, and also formulating your expected results. And then the work plan that Romain will further develop later on is all the work packages, the activities and deliverables that you will develop during your project implementation. So there are three main elements that you will have to propose in your project: your overall objective, some specific objective, and your expected results. So your overall objective is basically the strategic aim that you want to achieve with your project. So what it is that in the long term you want to achieve with the implementation of your project. Your specific objective, and you can propose up to three specific objectives, are basically a more specific contribution, a more operational objective that is going to enable you to reach your overall objective. As I mentioned, we can develop up to three specific objectives, and we actually really recommend you to develop the three that you can, because if you only have one, it's not always easy to understand how your idea is going to be implemented. You then have to come up with expected results. Expected results are the description of the direct consequence of your project. What is it that you want to achieve at the end of your project? And basically, you should formulate them with the idea of it's an increase or a decrease of something, always bringing this idea of change and how you formulate your expected results. In the end, they should correspond to the specific objective that you described earlier on. So if we take a concrete example, like an hypothetical project, that would be about reducing the risk of poverty among single parents working in the healthcare sector of your city. This is what you want to achieve. So this is your overall objective. One of the tips that we often give is to try to think of what my project aims to do and finish the sentence. And this end of the sentence basically is your overall objective. So that would be the overall objective for this example. And if we break it into two specific objectives that are more concrete and more operational objectives, the first one could be to enable single parents to take up full-time employment. And the second one would be to develop a more flexible childcare offer for parents working in the healthcare sector with changing shifts. So that would be your two specific objectives. Your expected result would be an increase in the number of single parents in full-time employment, an increase in the number of places of flexible childcare, and a reduced number of single families at risk of poverty. You already heard about indicators during the presentation of the Commission. We also have to define indicators in your EUI project, EUI, sorry. Basically, indicators are needed for two aspects. The first one is to enable to gather and aggregate data at initiative, but also cohesion policy level. So we know, taking all the projects, what has been achieved with ERDF funding. And the other one is also to kind of guide you in developing your project, because the indicators that are proposed by the Commission will help you understand what is expected and adapt your project also according to these expectations. So the first one are output indicators. They enable us to measure and monitor project outputs. We haven't mentioned them project outputs yet, but basically take them at the end product of your project, what actually the money is going to pay for. And as we mentioned this morning, there are output indicators that are predefined in the terms of reference. So you are strongly encouraged to use these ones when it's relevant, of course. If you feel that in the list there are no output indicators that really matches your need, then you are able to propose your own category. Similarly for result indicators, so they aim to measure the effect of the intervention in your urban area. And again, we have predefined result indicators that come from the European Commission that you can use if they are relevant and in line with what your projects want to do. And if not, you're able to develop your own indicators. When doing so, developing your own, we encourage you to use the RACER methodology to ensure that your indicators are relevant, accepted, credible, easy to monitor, and robust. That being said, it's important to stress going to feed in your project expected results and that are then aligned with your overall objective. As we mentioned, this is what you want to achieve, and the work plan is how you're actually going to do it. So I'm not going to go too much in details in this section because Romain will give you a good overview, but your work plan will be built around different work packages that will include activities, deliverables, outputs, each with a dedicated budget. And this work plan is going to enable you to reach your overall objective in the end. So this is how the two, your theoretical intervention logic and your work plan, are supposed to be integrated. So you'll have your work packages supporting the delivery of your specific objective, and all the things that you will implement during your project implementation will enable you to reach your results and project expected results. Again, if we can take an example, that would be like an hypothetical work package that would be focused on a program around education. First, you would have an activity around a training program, and then something more related to citizen engagement to reach a wider group of stakeholders. And one thing that we would like to draw your attention to is that defining what falls into a deliverable or an output can be a bit tricky. We chose this example because if you look at the deliverable 522, which is an engagement pilot that is supposed to enable to reach a wide group of stakeholders, we formulate it as a pilot. Related to the first activity, you can see that the first output is also called a training pilot. And this is all just to explain that it really depends from one project to the other, what you should define as a deliverable and what you should define as a pilot. There is no one size fits it all. Some tips that we gathered following the first call for proposal. First, ensure that your expected results are in line with your project overall objective. As we mentioned, there should be always a link and all elements should be coherent. Ensure that your results are different from your output and activities. We've seen in the previous call, so some copy-paste, and these are different. They're different elements, but they should be clearly linked and coherent. Make sure that your outputs and result indicators capture all the dimensions of the project. Basically, don't forget to mention a key element in your list of outputs. At the same time, don't come up with a list of like 45 outputs. We really want you to focus on what is the end product that your project has delivered. Make sure your results are formulated in a clear and specific way, that they're neither too long or too broad. And again, your expected results are different from your result indicators, but they should be coherent and linked. So just one short slide to help you define the right scale of your result indicators, because again, as we said, this is not an easy task. What we've seen in the previous call is either results that were too ambitious and that would be too difficult to measure, and that we couldn't solely attribute to the change enabled by the project. And on the other hand, we also saw some results that were very specific and very narrow. So the big ambitious result, we call them impact-like indicators. So basically, they're going one step further than our expectations. And the one that we would say are too narrow or output-like indicators. So in the slide, we came up with some examples. So if we take a result that would be around the number of startups created increased by 2% in the city after the end of the project, this would be really difficult to say this is thanks to the project. So it's too difficult to measure, it's too long-term, and that it's too ambitious compared to our expectations. On the other hand, if your result is only formulated as the number of people attending the training program, this is easy to measure, we can do it, we can trace it, but it doesn't really capture what is the benefit from attending this training program and what has been the benefit for the people. The scale that we're looking for is more like the improved capacity of the participants to this training program. But the way it is formulated here lacks a bit baseline. We're not able to really see the change before and after the project. So a better way, and we're not saying it's the right answer, but at least it's a better way to do it, would be to say that 80% of the participants say that they improve their capacity to start their own company compared to when they started the training program. So here we have a baseline, we have a target value of where we want to go, and we can see the before and after situation. So that we hope that these tips will enable you to better understand what we are looking for and to help you draft a successful intervention logic. Thank you. I think now we'll go back to the question.
Thank you, Kathleen. So we had a couple of questions that popped out during your presentation, but of course we encourage you to ask all what you can on the intervention logic. So one of the first questions that we have is based more on the scope of actions that you can propose as an intervention logic. So for example, can the project be based only on conducting research on an innovative theme, or can conducting research only be part of the project that you're proposing within the intervention framework?
I think it's important that you are able to present us something. So we expect a bit more than just a research or a bit more than just a preparatory phase. We would like to see, you can have, of course, your preparatory phase and research, but then you need to deliver something tangible. So we are really looking for pilots, tangible pilots implemented.
Thank you, Agnieszka. We have another question that's related to this level of preparedness of the project. So one of our audience is asking if whether an idea or concept is enough, or if the project must be more advanced on the level of preparation. For example, if they should have a whole documentation on their idea and how to implement it.
That's a very good question, and thank you very much for this one. So there are two aspects that are important to mention here. One is, I believe, will make everyone in the room happy, is that no, we do not expect you to have your full documentation in place already at the application stage. So you don't have to have your building permit already, you don't need to have all your other documents that are necessary for implementation. But, and this is a very important but, we are also assessing your project readiness. So we will be checking if you are actually able to get all the permits and eventually deliver your innovative solution within this time framework that you have for implementation of the project. So in total 3.5 years. So it's really important that even if you still need to get some permits, go through some administrative procedure, is that you have a well-calculated time for that, and you know that at the end you will be able to do that and complete your activities with a reasonable contingency period.
Thank you, Agnieszka. While we wait for more questions on the intervention logic, I wanted to go back to a few questions that we had on the application form and the partnership and its composition. So we had several questions on who can be a delivery partner? Can a private entity join the partnership? Can a region participate in a project? Is there a minimum number of delivery partners? Would you have a few answers for that?
Sure, happy to answer. Who can be a delivery partner? In principle, anyone. anyone who is needed by you to deliver an innovative solution. So as we mentioned before, we really welcome you to reflect on proper representation of quadruple helix, as we call it, so academia, private partners, civil society, they all can be other public institutions, so also your region can be your delivery partner. There is no minimum number and there is no maximum number, but we also ask you to be reasonable. Minimum would be more reflected to, is a quadruple helix properly reflected? Do you have everyone whom you need around the table? And maximum, be reasonable because it's also a matter of how effectively you will be able to manage your partnership. And normally when the partnership is bigger than 10 partners, we recommend to reflect on that well, because that's a pretty big partnership, potentially difficult to be managed.
Thank you, Aga. Also, another question is, can applicants submit a joint application with a partner city from another EU country?
Thank you, Sophia. So we are really looking for local partnerships. So there is nothing that actually prevents from joining two cities from different member states joining the partnership. But the question that you should ask is, does it make sense for my project? If it's like neighboring cities that want to tackle a project that they share, why not? It would have to be very well justified. So this is not something that we're really looking for.
And thank you, Kathleen. Other way round, is a consortium of several small towns in the same geographical area eligible?
Yes, in that case, and it could also be a way to enable you to reach this threshold of 5,000 inhabitants. It is possible that several municipalities join as partners of a EUI project. Thank you, Kathleen and Agnieszka, for your answers. We don't see any more questions, from the audience on the intervention logic or the partner composition or the application form. So I'll give the floor back to you.